The afternoon was perfect that spring of 1994 in Rochester, New York. The sun lit up the blue sky, and a gentle breeze danced among the trees of the apartment complex, bringing with it the distant laughter of children playing in the yard. Among them was Kayan Polton, a 4-year-old girl with golden curls and eyes as bright as the sunlight itself. Riding her red tricycle, she moved through the yard as if on a great adventure, the rhythmic sound of the wheels echoing through the neighborhood. Inside the apartment, Judy, her mother, was busy with her job of placing leaflets in magazines, something she did every afternoon before heading out to deliver them. Her heart was torn between the worry of paying the bills and the desire to provide Kay with a happy childhood. She dreamed of taking her daughter to Disney World, a wish that seemed increasingly close to coming true, thanks to her hard work. That day, Judy planned to finish her task and take Kay to McDonald's as a small reward. At 6:45, Kay, with her contagious energy, begged to go out and play in the yard. Judy looked out the window and saw that the yard was full of children. "Okay, but stay in the yard," she said with a loving smile. Kay ran out the door, laughing and pushing the tricycle ahead of her. Judy continued to work, her thoughts divided between the task and the distant sound of her daughter's fun. But when she finished and went out to call Kay, reality turned into a nightmare. The yard was now silent, with only a few abandoned toys on the ground. Kay's tricycle was missing, as was the girl herself. Judy felt a chill run down her spine. She began calling for Kay, her voice breaking the oppressive silence. The other mothers and neighbors, seeing the despair on her face, joined the search. The concern grew with each passing minute, turning into panic when they realized there was no sign of Kay. The neighbors began searching every corner, knocking on doors, while Judy wandered the yard like a shadow, repeating her daughter's name like a mantra. The fence that surrounded the complex now seemed like an impenetrable barrier, separating the comfort of her home from the abyss of the unknown. Clinging to hope, Judy called the police, who arrived quickly, bringing with them a storm of lights and sirens echoing through the night that began to fall. The authorities mobilized a tireless search, scouring every corner of the complex. The sound of search dogs and the flash of torches lit up the growing darkness. But despite all efforts, the night brought only frustration and fear. When the clock struck 4 a.m., the case was reclassified as an abduction. Judy felt the ground disappear from under her feet. Her mind spun in a whirlwind of horrible scenarios, as the first rays of the sun tinged the sky a somber gray, symbolizing the new reality that now unfolded. The next morning arrived enveloped in a dense fog, both physical and emotional. The apartment complex, which had once been a safe haven, was now steeped in uncertainty and fear. The sound of doors slamming and whispering voices echoed in the hallways. As residents moved like shadows, the horror of the previous night still fresh in their minds. Judy, exhausted and distraught, sat in the police station, answering a barrage of questions from the detectives. She felt as if she was living a nightmare, reality distorted by shock and lack of sleep. With each question about potential enemies or suspicious people in their lives, her mind returned to Mark Christie, the young neighbor whose presence always unsettled her. Mark was a 22-year-old man who had recently moved into the complex with his wife and young son. There was something in his eyes, a disturbing glint that Judy could never ignore. She told the detectives about the uncomfortable encounters she had with him, recalling how he had complimented Kay's beauty in a way that seemed strangely intimate. And then there was the disturbing question: would she tell if someone tried to touch her? The detectives listened intently, recording every detail. Mark's name was immediately noted, but there were doubts. He had been seen in the yard with his son at the exact time Kay disappeared, providing him with an apparent alibi. Moreover, his house had already been searched with no results, and he had passed a polygraph test without raising suspicions. Despite this, Judy's words planted a seed of doubt in the mind of Detective Crowe, a man of experience and sharp instinct. Crowe knew that, often, the truth lay hidden in the shadows of the most obvious suspicions. He decided to follow his intuition and delve deeper into Mark's story, investigating beyond appearances. Meanwhile, the search for Kay continued relentlessly. Helicopters flew over the area, and search teams scoured nearby forests and fields. News of the disappearance spread quickly, reaching newspaper headlines and television newscasts. The Rochester community united in solidarity, organizing candlelight vigils and volunteer search groups in the hope of finding any clue that could lead to Kay's safe return. The absence of answers began to eat away at Judy, like a poison spreading slowly through her veins. But even in the midst of despair, she maintained a fierce determination to find her daughter. The memory of Kay, her radiant smile and infectious laughter, kept her steady, even as everything around her seemed to fall apart. As days turned into weeks, the shadow of the unknown hung over everyone, especially Judy. Hope wavered between despair and determination as the city of Rochester held its breath, waiting for a miracle that was yet to come. Time passed slowly after Kay's disappearance, each day bringing a new level of anxiety and despair. Judy found herself in an endless vigil, the phone always within reach, hoping for news, a lead, something that could bring her daughter back. The police continued to investigate, but with every lead proving a dead end, hope began to fade. Meanwhile, Detective Crowe delved deeper into Mark Christie's life. He combed through his records, interviewed former neighbors and co-workers, searching for any anomaly that might link him to Kay's disappearance. It was during one of these investigations that he found a detail that sparked his suspicions. Years earlier, when Mark was still a teenager, he had been accused of voyeurism in his previous neighborhood. Although the charge had not led to a trial, the story left a trail of distrust that Crowe could not ignore. Determined to follow this new lead, Crowe decided to confront Mark again. He knew he needed to approach the subject carefully. The last thing he wanted was to scare Mark off, in case he was indeed involved. So, he approached the suspect in a friendly manner, inviting him for a coffee to discuss the case informally. Seated in a dimly lit restaurant, with the smell of fresh coffee lingering in the air, Crowe watched Mark closely. The man seemed calm, almost unconcerned, as he stirred sugar into his coffee. But Crowe knew that beneath the surface, there was something darker. After some casual conversation, Crowe subtly shifted the topic, mentioning Kay's disappearance and the difficulty of the investigation. He watched Mark's reactions, looking for any sign of discomfort or guilt. Mark maintained his composure, but a slight tremor in his hands and his averted gaze did not escape the detective's notice. Crowe, sensing an opportunity, decided to increase the pressure. "You know, Mark, it's been a complicated investigation, but something tells me that the truth always finds a way to come out. Maybe there's something you want to share, something that could ease your conscience." For a moment, silence hung between them, thick and charged with tension. Mark looked at Crowe, a spark of defiance in his eyes, but also a hesitation that suggested he was on the verge of confessing something. "I don't know what you want me to say," Mark replied, his voice containing a slight hesitation. "But if I knew something, I would have already told you." Crowe nodded, maintaining his friendly tone. "Of course, Mark. I just want to help find the truth. Sometimes, that means facing things we'd rather forget." Although the conversation did not lead to a confession, Crowe knew he was getting closer. Something in Mark was starting to crack, and the detective was determined to find the truth, no matter how long it took. The tension continued to build, both for Judy and Crowe. Time was running out, and each day without answers was a painful reminder of the tragedy surrounding them. But the detective was more determined than ever to solve the case, believing that the truth was on the verge of being revealed. 2 years had passed since Kay's disappearance, and life seemed to have come to a halt for Judy. Each day without answers was an eternity, each night an endless torture. Yet she refused to give up, fueling her hope with tireless actions. Posters with Kay's face were still everywhere in the city, and Judy continued to speak with the media, keeping the case alive in the public's mind. It was on one of those grim mornings, as Judy was reviewing an old photo album of her daughter, that the phone rang, interrupting the silence of her home. It was an unknown number, but Judy answered with the hope she always carried. On the other end of the line, a female voice sounded nervous but determined. "I have something you need to know about your daughter," the woman said. Judy felt a chill run through her body. She gripped the phone tightly, her heart pounding erratically. "Who are you?" she asked, trying to stay calm. "My name is Emily," the voice replied, hesitant. "I'm Mark Christie's wife. I need to talk to the police. It's about Kay." The call was short but enough to ignite a new flame of hope and fear. Judy immediately contacted Detective Crow, informing him of the call. Within minutes, a team was on its way to Emily's house, eager to discover what she had to say. When Crow and his team arrived at Emily's house, she was visibly shaken. Sitting at the kitchen table, she told the detectives about the fight she had with Mark and the shocking confession he had made in a moment of despair. "He said he killed Kay," Emily stated, her voice trembling but firm. The words hung in the air, shocking and incredibly devastating. Detective Crow felt a mixture of satisfaction and horror. He was finally close to the truth, but the revelation was more sinister than he had expected. Emily's information offered a direct path to Mark's arrest, but there was a significant legal obstacle: the spousal privilege law. Crow knew he had to be strategic. He needed to make Mark confess on his own, without the interference of a lawyer. Armed with Emily's information, Crow devised a plan, determined to catch Mark in his own web of lies. The tension was palpable as Crow prepared to confront Mark once again. This time, he was armed with the crucial knowledge that could finally solve the case. The resolution was approaching, and Crow was determined to ensure that justice was served for Kay and her family. Detective Crow was determined to get a confession from Mark Christie. He knew that Mark, now aware of his wife's testimony, would be cautious and defensive. However, Crow was prepared. He had a strategy in mind, something that could make Mark crumble under the pressure. That afternoon, Crow went to Mark's house again. When Mark opened the door, his face was tense, but he tried to maintain an appearance of calm. Crow, adopting a friendly tone, invited him for another conversation, suggesting they do it in a public place. Mark hesitated but eventually agreed, feeling safe with the detective's presence in an open environment. They went to a small Italian cafe, where the atmosphere was quiet and the aroma of fresh coffee filled the air. Crow started with small talk, discussing common subjects before gradually steering the conversation toward Kay's disappearance. He talked about how the case had affected the community, mentioning Judy's ongoing suffering. Mark listened in silence, his eyes fixed on the coffee cup in front of him. Finally, Crow said something that made Mark flinch. "You know, Mark, sometimes it's important to confront our own demons. Keeping a secret can be a prison, and the truth, though painful, can be liberating." Silence hung between them, dense and full of meaning. Mark looked at Crow, his eyes betraying an internal struggle. Finally, he spoke, his voice barely more than a whisper. "It was a mistake," he said. "It should never have happened." Crow, sensing the crack in Mark's armor, pressed further. He spoke about how Judy deserved to know the truth, about how Kay's parents were living an endless nightmare. "You can give them some peace," Crow said gently. "The truth is the only way for everyone to move forward." Mark seemed to hesitate, his expression a mix of regret and guilt. Finally, he began to speak, his voice filled with suppressed emotion. He confessed to killing Kay, describing what happened that fateful day. The narrative was horrific, but Mark insisted that Kay did not suffer, a point he repeated as if trying to convince himself of it. Crow listened in silence, feeling both relief and sadness. He finally had the confession he needed, but the cost was immeasurable. Mark explained how he hid the body, detailing the meticulous steps he took to avoid capture. When he finished, Mark seemed exhausted, as if a great weight had been lifted from his shoulders. Crow knew that the confession was a crucial step, but there was still work to be done. The search for Kay's body needed to be completed, and justice would finally catch up with Mark Christie. With Mark's confession in hand, Detective Crow acted quickly. He knew he needed to find Kay's body to confirm the story and ensure that Mark was held accountable for his crimes. The police team was immediately mobilized to the location where Mark said he had hidden the body. The old industrial building was located on the outskirts of Rochester, an imposing structure that seemed abandoned and forgotten by time. The team of investigators, equipped with flashlights and forensic equipment, entered the building with a mix of hope and apprehension. Inside the coolant tank, as Mark had described, they found what remained of Kay. Despite the time passed and the conditions, the girl's identity was confirmed, bringing a sense of closure to a case that had consumed the lives of many. The news quickly spread, bringing both sorrow and relief to the community. Judy finally had the chance to bury her daughter and begin the difficult process of mourning. Although nothing could erase the pain of loss, she found some solace in knowing that the truth had been revealed. Mark Christie was tried and convicted for Kay's murder. During the trial, he maintained an indifferent demeanor, showing no remorse. The sentence was severe, reflecting the gravity of his crimes, and Mark was sentenced to spend most of his life in prison. However, the case did not end there. During the investigation, new details about Mark's past came to light, linking him to other unsolved crimes in the area. Further investigation revealed that he was also responsible for the murder of Viola Manville, an old case that had resulted in the wrongful conviction of Frank Sterling. The revelation of Frank's innocence added another layer of complexity and tragedy to the story. He was released after years of wrongful imprisonment, but the lost time could never be recovered. Despite receiving significant financial compensation, Frank struggled to adjust to life outside the bars, his health compromised by the years of stress and suffering. The resolution of Kay's case served as a grim reminder of the fragility of justice and the importance of meticulous investigation. Although the truth finally came to light, the cost was high, and the emotional scars remained forever. The Rochester community, marked by the case, came together in solidarity, determined to learn from the past and protect their children. Detective Crow, although relieved to have closed the case, carried the weight of the revealed tragedies, aware that the fight for justice is never ending. As we reach the end of this story of suspense and tragedy, we are forced to reflect on the devastating power of hidden secrets and the importance of seeking the truth, no matter how difficult it may be. The story of Kay and Mark Christie is a grim reminder that evil can hide in the most unexpected places and that justice, although often delayed, is an imperative necessity for wounds to begin to heal. Now, ask yourself, what would you do if you were in Judy's or Detective Crow's position? Would we have the courage and perseverance to fight for the truth, even when everything seems lost? This story shows us that in the face of adversity, our determination can be our greatest ally. How can you apply this lesson in your own life? Think about the areas where you can seek more truth and justice, whether in your personal relationships, at work, or in your community? What secrets do you need to confront? And what changes do you need to make to live a more authentic and fulfilling life? What demons do you need to face to change your life? This story is not just about crime and punishment, but also about courage, resilience, and the power of truth to set you free. Use this narrative as inspiration to look within and ask yourself, where can I be more truthful and make a difference? And as you reflect on these questions, remember that the quest for truth is an ongoing journey. Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. We want to hear your stories and know how you plan to apply these lessons in your own life. If you found this story impactful, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, Spooky Stories, and activate notifications to continue exploring these themes with us. Here at Spooky Stories, we are dedicated to bringing stories that not only inform but also inspire and challenge you to see the world differently. Join us as we continue to unravel the mysteries of life and the human mind. And remember, the truth may be hard to face, but it is the key to freedom. Until the next story, where we will seek more answers and explore the unknown. Welcome to Spooky Stories. I'm Milo, your guide through the chilling and the unknown. Here, we dive into terrifying tales that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Join our community of thrill seekers, and let's explore the darkness together. Meet Sarah. Like many of us, she used to dread bedtime. Hours spent tossing and turning, waking up groggy and irritable, and worst of all, her relentless snoring that not only disturbed her sleep, but her partner's as well. Desperate for a solution, Sarah tried everything. New mattresses, white noise machines, even sleeping pills. Nothing worked until she discovered our breathing for sleep routine. One particularly frustrating night, Sarah stumbled upon an article about the power of breathing to improve sleep. Skeptical but willing to try anything, she read about our breathing for sleep routine. A simple, scientifically backed method designed to clear sinuses, enhance breathing, and eliminate oxygen blockades. It promised to guide users through a simple breathing routine for the best sleep of their lives. Intrigued, she decided to give it a shot. As she began the routine, Sarah immediately felt her sinuses clear. She followed the step-by-step guide, learning how to breathe deeply and correctly. Within minutes, she noticed a significant difference. Her breathing was smoother, more relaxed. That night, she fell asleep faster than she had in years and, incredibly, stayed asleep all night. One of the most astonishing benefits was the end of her snoring. The routine included a simple breathing hack that stopped her snoring in minutes. Sarah learned that her habit of mouth breathing was activating her survival mode, preventing her from achieving truly restful sleep. By switching to nasal breathing, she deactivated this mode and allowed her body to fully relax. The next morning, Sarah woke up feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. She couldn't remember the last time she felt so well rested. Her partner noticed the difference too. No more middle-of-the-night disruptions from her snoring. The transformation was remarkable, and Sarah knew she had found something special. Sarah's story is not unique. Many others have discovered the life-changing benefits of our breathing for sleep routine. Imagine falling asleep quickly, sleeping soundly through the night, and waking up feeling fully rested. No more snoring, no more grogginess, just deep, restorative sleep. Are you ready to transform your sleep like Sarah did? Our breathing for sleep routine is easy to follow and starts working immediately. Clear your sinuses, enhance your breathing, and remove oxygen blockades with our guided routine. Say goodbye to snoring and hello to the best sleep of your life. Check out the link for this wonder in the description and the comments.